So, I wonder if you would do me a finish lesson while we wait for latecomers, for stragglers to come in. So, and if you don't mind, for my future reference, I'll record it. But hold on, give me one moment. Any of you speak Finnish? Wait, a bit. So, how do you do this? How does one do this? Right, okay. So, I've always been curious how you say no in Finnish. So I was wondering if I could record you guys telling me, just as a group, so I'm pretty, right, so he's going to say no to me in Finnish. Hold on, wait. I don't know how to do that. Alright, you'll. Okay, so how do you say no in Finnish? A. Is it A or A?
Really compact, sharp. So A. It's like depending on your mood, it could be both.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I will remember how to use that. So it looks like that's good, right? We've given them 2 minutes. Late people. Who's this? How are you guys doing? Fine. Anybody sleep last night? Beautiful. See, I'm learning. Now, what did you do if you didn't sleep?
Tried to sleep.
Was it too hot?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay.
Do you want specific examples or just?
No, I don't want anything gory. Remember, I'm here. I'm going to go home and tell all these stories. So just imagine what I'm going to tell people when I go home. Anybody play any good games last night? Good games?
Yeah.
Anybody play any bad games last night?
Yeah.
Yo. Excellent. I find I learn a lot from bad con games. Did anybody run a bad game last night? Did anybody admit to that? Anybody admit to running a bad game last night? I didn't think so. Has anyone ever run a bad game? Yeah. Okay. I run them every week. Alright, I think that's good. I think we've been amply polite. We've been 3 minutes polite. We can get started. So my name is Luke. I make games. And I have been making games since 2002. And I've also done other things since 2002. So I thought that it would be interesting, maybe, you guys can tell me, I've never done this before, I thought it would be interesting to talk about how I make games, and not so much why, but more process. So yes, the title of the panel, How do you design a book? Design and publish, but without killing yourself. Is anyone here interested in creating games or publishing games? Yeah? Great. That's right, you keep your hand down. You know better. Oh wait, I need my clicker. This thing is amazing. You guys have serious presentation technology here. I love it. Alright, so, this guy. So, yeah, it's Stephen King. He wrote a book about writing books, very famously called On Writing. It's very authorial. Right, but look at that. So Stephen King, he is a machine. He's a writing machine. He has written 1 billion books and I don't know how many words, but so he writes 1,000 to 2,000 words a day. So I read this and I wondered how many words do I write a day? But then I started thinking about other things, like there's so much to do aside from writing. And so much, like, there are very important things to do. Like, I have a lot, my day is very packed. Very, very packed. my nights too, not a lot of time at night. This is not me, by the way, this is my friend Jason, but, we must rock often. I'm not writing at this show, thankfully. I also happen to have a job, which is great, a job. I have not had a job. That is less great. Having a job, great. I work from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, and my job is one of those jobs where I don't have to work 24 hours a day, but I have to sort of be on call all the time for, you wouldn't believe how many Kickstarter emergencies there are. It's ridiculous. But I really like things like a salary and healthcare. We don't get healthcare unless we work in America. There's a really big incentive system there. Not a lot of time for writing during the day. And then also at night when I'm not at the rock shows, there's a lot of Dungeons & Dragons to play. There's so much to do. This is one of my Kickstarter D&D groups, actually. I have 3 D&D groups at Kickstarter in addition to my 2 home groups. You do the math about how many nights a week that's gaming right there. And then I also throw events. This is actually a convention I run in New York City. I showed this slide yesterday, but these are 30 of my closest friends. These are people that travel from all over to come to BurningCon in New York. I go to a lot of other conventions. I spend a lot of time on the internet. There's a lot to do. I have to answer all your questions on the forums. So many questions. And G+, I love G+. Does anybody use G+ here? Yeah? Hey. Cool. I love G+. So, turns out, I'm well below Mr. King's mark.
Yeah, but I hope you know that King used cocaine a lot.
Well, I'm not here to smear him. He actually wrote on writing, I think as a reflection on his cocaine years, as kind of a expiation of his alcohol and drugs, and to basically say this is how I did it. Don't do it like I did it. But I don't know, whatever. He still wrote a lot of books, and people seem to like them. Not 1,000 or 2,000 words a day. 306 words a day. So what does that mean? Well, turns out it's actually not so bad. 15 titles. It's 2014 now, 14 years. 306 words a day. I really, really, really want to know what the fuck was going on in 2008 and 2010. And you know what's not there in 2010? The Oscar box set as well. Because I felt guilty. But what was I doing? I was not doing cocaine in 2010. I don't know what I was on. Some of these are smaller. This is a 96-page pamphlet. This is probably a 48-page pamphlet. This is 100 pages. This is 200 pages. But these are 2 book sets, and this is a monster. So even just writing something, as simple as 306 words a day, it actually starts to add up over time. It's a lot of pages. Some of you have seen my books, that's what's going on in there. I feel like, fuck you, Mr. King. Alright, I got a finished chuckle. I'm pretty proud of myself. Anyway, just give you guys some context there about what I do and who I am, and then I thought, now that you know what I'm capable of, we would talk about actual process, writing process. So no more jokes. Very serious from here on out. Very, very serious. Very artistic. Very serious. So when I'm writing, or this isn't even writing. This is before writing. When I always make goals for myself, and right, these are things that I've learned to express, and these are things I've always done, but I didn't know how to talk about them until recently. So when I started out, my initial, my big goal was I want to make games. My mini goal was twofold: figure out how to make games, and figure out also big goals. But figure out also the technical process of making games. I taught myself all the layout, all of the production of the games, everything. Any of my games that goes to press, like I have created that file. I've created the book. I've created the layout. I do all that work myself. I don't do any of the art because I don't actually have any talent.
Read your books, actually.
What's it?
We've actually read some of your books, so that.
Yeah, I tried. I realized very early on that I needed to learn some skills, and so this is one of the first publications that I ever created. It was at a coffee shop. This is actually, if you guys saw my presentation yesterday, this one predates the one that I showed yesterday. It's very bad. The layout inside of it is horrible. I'm not going to show it to you because it's embarrassing. The rules are terrible. But it was the first step on this journey of, this very long-term journey. But one of the things, just the last one there is never say forever. As soon as you set a goal and say, I want to do this goal because this is something I want to do forever, you're fucking yourself. You're just like putting this huge weight on your shoulders, because when you're feeling bad or when it's hard, or when, you've kind of maybe taken the wrong path for a moment, and suddenly you have the weight of forever sitting on your shoulders, like, oh, I have to do this, like, this is my goal, to do this forever. Oh. So never, just kind of ignore that part and say, like, hey, I'd like to do this thing, I'd like to make games, and so I will figure out, the steps I need to make games. I will figure out how to do layout, I will figure out how to actually write. Never say forever. This is also an early step in the process. This is one of the first documented sessions of probably Burning Wheel. Those are my very young friends. For those of you who were here yesterday in my presentation, that's the guy. That's him. My frenemy. All right. So once you have your goal, and once you have or have your mini goals really, what I do is I start concepting. I take notes, I test things, and I refine them at a very, very simple level. I'm always carrying a notebook with me, and always carrying a pen. If any of you ask me for a signing, that I've pulled out my own pen, because it's just, if you're really committed to this, if you really want to write and publish your stuff, you just have to be ready at all times to have that idea and set that idea down. So whatever it is, if you're going to do this, it doesn't necessarily have to be a notebook. It could be a recorder or something like that. But these very blocky, broad ideas, very rough, uncut things. They have to be taken down, and then you have to talk to your friends, you have to talk to your associates about them, you have to test them and refine them. Even something as simple as if I have an idea, I take some notes on it, I'm feeling good about it, and I pitch it to you, and I say, what do you think about this? And you're like, that tells me something. It tells me I'm not communicating it correctly, or it's a bad idea, or something along those lines. So just even that level of interaction in the concepting phase is really important. Keep going. All right. So I believe, I'm probably wrong, but I believe that at my heart I am a practical man. And I have developed certain tools that I use. As I noted, my notebook and my black pen are my constant companions, but there are other tools that are very, very, very important to me, and this is what's comfortable to me. There's no really right way to do this. There's no correct set of tools for writing or publishing or anything like that. You've got to find what helps you. But for those of you who know InDesign, I write in InDesign. Like once I get past the very early drafting stage, I'll draft in text editor. What is that cursor doing here? Oh God. I will draft in a text editor, just a very basic, with no formatting, just to kind of, what I'll do is I'll transcribe my notes. I'll take my notes and just type them all in so that I can begin formatting them. And then once I have a document that I can no longer kind of conceive of in my head, once I can't, I have a text document that's just so long and horribly formatted that I can't make sense of it anymore, then I take it into InDesign and I just do everything else in InDesign and I just write. InDesign is a layout program. This is a horrible idea. Writing in InDesign is the worst possible thing you could do, but I do it anyway. But two of my other tools that I have learned, I had to really, those are kind of intuitive. The two non-intuitive tools are the two, productivity tools, we call them. My calendar and my Trello. I'll show you Trello. We'll get to the calendar in a minute. But keeping a calendar, very important for keeping goals. But this is Trello. So I hate these things. I hate their, productivity or time management or any of this stuff. I hate them. But recently, we started using this stupid thing at work, and I said, maybe this would work. We had so many projects and so much going on at Burnywell headquarters that I couldn't. I got to the point where keeping notes in my notebook about what had to be done was just ridiculous. I was just getting lost. So this stupid thing, it's so good. You can make checklists and set due dates and leave notes and comments in various emails, and you have all these lists of things that need to be done, and it's so good. But the best thing about this by far was teaching myself how to be organized, teaching myself how to communicate better with the people I was working with. And the blowout window here is me working with an artist, working with my favorite artist, Jordan Worley, for the artist for the Art for Inheritance. And so I said to Jordan, hey, would you join this stupid productivity tool web thing for me and try it out with me? And he said, sure. And so now, instead of having these epic email chains with sketches and drafts and final art and links and stuff, I don't know where anything fucking is, we just have this board where Jordan posts the art, or he'll post a link and I get an update, and it's only me, even though, Toby's on the board and Tor's on the board and, all my other collaborators on the board, you can very specifically narrow it down to who's actually involved in this project. And so now I get updates and then, everything is where it should be. I can look at all the beautiful art and he can, there's a card for each particular thing. And this has it's been like clouds parting for me, because making this easier, commissioning art and dealing with art means I have more time to write. And I never have enough time to write. I can go back to the initial slides and show you, and I never have enough time to write. Anyway, so one of the other things that I have learned, and this is so weird to say, but I've learned that busy work is so important. Learning how to do busy work and just committing to it and embracing the busy work of writing. Writing is not all glory. Writing is not all Mr. Stephen King, with his legs up and, writing this beautiful notebook, whatever. It's so much bullshit involved in writing. And the sooner you realize that, the better you're going to become at this. And so, editing, layout, spreadsheets, and I know this is ridiculous, but I found a mnemonic trick when I'm stuck. If I just alphabetize a list, it'll help me remember where I was in the process, what I was writing about in the chapter or something like that. And those of you who play my games, there's so many lists, so much alphabetizing, and you also know that I often get it wrong. Because I changed it, as I alphabetize things, I will change the names of them and then not move them in the alphabetized order. It's great. Anyway. So this is a spreadsheet for the art commissions for Torchbearer. And this hurt. The blue means that it's all turned in, good, done. like, we blew them out as we went. But you can see Kurt and Russ Nicholson, Peter Mullen for the cover, Richard Luschek, Jen Rogers, Chris Muller. But this is a tool for creativity. It's hard to believe, but doing this and making sure this was organized and getting this taken care of and keeping it tight meant that I had more time to write, and also just helped me remember like the layout of the book, right? It helped me say, oh, we need art for this, art for that. And then once I started thinking about those chapters, I said, oh, wait, is that section of that chapter done? Do I need to write an example for that chapter? And it just helped kind of walk me back into into the project after I was out at a rock show, for example. And then another thing that I'm kind of obsessive about is that, so this is me in maybe, I don't know, this might be 2001, 2002? This is me with a printout of the original draft of Burning Wheel at my ancient computer, editing it. I'm just like, again, this is a creative process for me. Reading what I've written, going over it, revising it, refining it, and just constantly trying to understand what the fuck I'm saying. But editing, again, it's a creative process for me. It helps me remember where I was in the writing and helps me get back to where I need to be. So rock shows and afternoon bike rides. So it's really, so if you're going to be a writer, so in addition to like embracing this busy work of writing and the other thing you have to really be honest about are distractions. We live in a wonderful world of fabulous things to do. And as soon as you start writing, you will realize that all of those things are better than writing. Every possible thing. You know what? Raking the lawn is better than writing. You know why? You get outside, you get a little exercise, and you can finish it. It'll be done. You can rake the lawn in an afternoon and be done. You can't write anything in an afternoon and be done. Unless you're like signing your name. So just be honest with yourself about your distractions and what they are. Like, you kind of just have to acknowledge your demons, and that'll help you say, like, okay, what I'm doing here, maybe beating XCOM again isn't completely necessary. I think I beat it 4 times. Did anybody play XCOM, by the way? This is a sublime thing to me. The plasma sniper and the archangel armor is just, oh man. I just have a game like this right now that's right before the end, like right before the final mission, that I just go in and do a mission once in a while, just because I like to boom those plasma sniper rifles. Anyway, but I know this is a distraction, and like just having that voice of conscience in my head and recognizing it as a distraction, I can say, maybe I should just finish the chapter first before I go sit down. But just to go back, so I'm going to preach some heresy here. I know it is basically like you could probably burn me at a stake for saying these things because of our lovely gamer culture, but you got to treat yourself right when you're writing. If you're eating shit and pounding coffee will burn you out. If you're going on a long haul, if you're trying to write a book, you can ask Mr. King. I'm sure he started with cigarettes and coffee, and I'm not saying that they're the gateway drug, but like, alright, maybe I am. Just treat yourself right while you're doing it. It's going to be a long fucking haul when you're writing something, and despite what you think, pounding coffee all night is only going to hurt you in the long run. So, use it when you need it. I'm not saying don't do it, but just treat yourself right. And it'll help you. By doing this, like, when you're not tweaking on caffeine, you'll actually be able to focus better and not have to play XCOM in order to fall asleep, like me. Hello, there it is again. All right, so yet another vital skill then, as we kind of drill down through all of this, are to set your deadline. So it's one thing to have goals, it's one thing to have a concept for a game, and it's one thing to be like, have your spreadsheets and your productivity tools. None of that matters unless you have a deadline. Because I know, from my experience, I will faff about forever without a deadline. I will tweak things. I will take complete ownership of the Mouse Guard second edition. Like, I will tweak that game forever. So far I've submitted the file for the Mouse Guard, the new Mouse Guard second edition 3 times so far, because I keep coming back and making changes because there's no deadline. Because the publisher's like, they keep pushing things off. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fix that. Anyway, so deadlines, nothing is ever going to be done when you're writing. So just abandon that. Abandon perfection, abandon completion. Things that you will hit your deadline and you will have to let go. And you'll have to just turn away and be like, I don't know, you read it, I can't read it anymore. They're vital. You will just, like, without a deadline, you'll keep working on it forever, and that's not what you want. You want to finish the thing and work on the next thing. Especially since it's never going to be perfect. But, so here you go. These are my insane deadlines. So, in the US, there's a convention called Gen Con. It's the biggest tabletop game convention in the States. And this is August 2008. So, August 13th, 2008. I'm missing one of my favorite bands to go to Gen Con. And you'll see here, Magic Burner printing ends. So Magic Burner printing comes in on the 11th for Gen Con on the 13th. And we had it there. We had it for that show. And how do we do that? Absolute spellcasting sorcery. The way we set this deadline was we said, okay, if we need it by August 13th, how long does it take to print? It's going to take 6 weeks to print. So if it takes 6 weeks to print, when do we need it to the printer? We need it to the printer in June. So what does that mean? That means we need to have final layout done by mid-June and be ready to do final editing pass. So what does that mean? Final layout means that we need to have the first round of editing done beginning of June. That means we need all the, we also need all the art commissions coming in through May and April, which means we need all the playtesting and writing done in March and February, which means we need to be concepting and drafting in January and December. Oh fuck, it's, it's January, we gotta get started. Like, that's how I do my deadlines, is that I say, like, okay, when do I absolutely have to have this? And by committing to basically, Gen Con or like something that's fixed and hard where I have to have it done, it helps me really stick to it. And if you blow a deadline, it's not the worst thing. It's not, don't kill yourself because you blew a deadline, but it's the only way to fly. So while you're on deadline, one of the really beautiful things that I found about this process, like, I don't know if you've ever had, actually, so just to back up, I don't know if you've ever had this fear that you're only ever going to have one good idea, that you've got this really good idea, and just like, oh God, I don't know, like, will I ever have an idea as good as this? And the answer is yes. You're going to have ideas that are 1,000 times better than that idea. And they are going to come while you're working on this idea. And in fact, you're going to realize that they're probably better, and you're going to say, wow, this idea that I'm working on sucks. And let me, work on this other new idea because it's better. Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Don't be mean. This is sitting on my hard drive. This is a cover to a game that I want to write. But I was in the middle of Torchbearer when I had this idea, and so I have a bit of a luxury here. I commissioned a cover for it in order to satisfy the urge to turn and work on it. But it's still sitting there on my hard drive. And I really want to go back and work on it, and I have absolutely no time because I had to focus on Torchbearer, and then Torchbearer comes out and you need a fucking break. But I also had to focus on the materials for Torchbearer that came out, the cards, and now the GM screen, and now I need to get Mouse Guard Second Edition out. So like it's heartbreaking to me, but you'll have all these ideas, and it's good. Set them aside on your hard drive or in your files. and come back to them in the future. They'll always be there, especially if you're taking notes and you're concepting or in your notebooks, you're not going to lose them, you're not going to forget them, and honestly, you'll probably think of a better idea than this one too. All right, and then so there's a skill to this that I have had to teach myself to get through the deadlines, to get through the focus, and that's to learn how to say no. It's heartbreaking, but there's me saying no to my dearest friend. Like writing is your job. Once you've committed, once you're this far down the line, don't fuck it up. Just what I've learned is that the 8 months or 6 months or a year that you're writing on this project, and you're dedicated to it, and you're staying in the evenings. You're saying that you can't go to brunch on Saturdays. That ends. And what it ends with is you finishing a beautiful thing. You accomplishing this amazing task. And then you go out, then you celebrate, then you take everybody out and say, sorry, I was busy. Or you take your kids to the park and say, I'm a good daddy. But making, learning how to, say no and saying, I'm sorry, I can't, and learning how to not answer the phone and how to not leave the house, it's a skill. It's a tragic, horrible skill of being a writer. A writer's an incredibly lonely profession. So to counteract that, there's a couple things. I'm not advocating that you become a monk and journey to Lindisfarne and illuminate your manuscripts. Just focus, but also reward yourself in the process as you go. My rewards are very, very simple. My rewards are taking myself out to breakfast by myself, just because I was up late last night working or something like that. But just simple things like that, where you work hard, you reward yourself, you buy yourself something nice, you let yourself play a little XCOM, or just something, going out to your favorite restaurant. It really helps, because again, writing is lonely and hard and it sucks. And the other side of counteracting that, aside from rewarding yourself, is associate while you're writing. So find people that aren't going to necessarily distract you, but find people that are going to engage with you about what you're doing. Find collaborators, find other designers or other players, or specifically about games. But find people who will look over your shoulder and read and give you constructive comments rather than hate or bullshit. But these are some of my friends in New York. That's my editor, and this is, he's my curmudgeon. He's a good friend of mine. He playtests all my games. Toby's here too. This guy, he was with me in New York too, and having this, having associates that are interested in what I'm doing, but understand when I can't come out, or I say no, I shouldn't write. But they're willing to read. They're willing to come over and test. It really lessens the blow. So yeah, I'm not saying become a hermit. Fuck Stephen King. Don't spend all your day writing 2,000 words. Just balance things and try to find your center. So, and the last thing that you do as a writer, the absolute final thing, is that you write. It is probably, it is the most important and least important thing at the same time. So how do you write? I don't know. But there's a few things, when I sit down to write something, I can feel it. It's like a physical pressure in me that, I have to get this idea out. I really, sometimes it's in my head or sometimes it's in my throat, where I just feel like I have to try to make sense of this idea and put it on the page. And I found a couple truths for me. One is that I need a space to write. And you hear writers say this all the time. And it's just, I think it's true, whether you're at the cafe, or whether you're, a place in your house. For me, I have my bedroom set up very specifically so I can, have a writing desk and sit writing. But having that space where you know this is the place where I go to write, it'll help. It'll build a habit in you. And then when I'm stuck and I don't want to do any busy work, and I hate my project, it's the worst thing in the world, and I don't want to write anymore, I'm tired, I have a migraine, I found that if I write one word that day, I'm serious. This isn't like a aspirational thing, write one word. No, this is me writing, fuck you, like, Luke. So like, or sometimes I'll just write like, rules go here, like just anything, just getting, like for me, just breaking through that barrier when I feel like I can't write anymore or don't want to write that day, just writing one single thing down, in the document or in my notebook will help me. And even if that's all I do that day, it's going to help me tomorrow, or it's going to help me in the future. And the last thing is that writing is an exercise like fencing or like a martial art. Like you have to stay warm. You have like your brain is a muscle, and it needs to be tuned, and it needs to you need to stretch, and then once it's warm, you got to keep it going. It's if I write something 1 month, if I'm very much into a game and then I have events and shows and distractions and I come back to it in a month, I pretty much have to start over. I will take things and just rewrite the whole thing because I have no fucking idea where I was or what I was doing because I've lost the thread. My brain is cooled down. I hate it. I was working on a game a year and a half ago and someone's come back to me and asked me to pick it up again and work on it again with them. And I have the document, we did a ton of work on it, but I'm going to have to start over. This is why you should be making sacrifices. Why you should be cutting out the distractions, because your writing will be better for it if you're warm. If you're working on it a little bit every day. If you're staying on point. It's just kind of how we work as biological machines. Yes, keep your brain warm. This is me at the end of writing the adventure burner, yelling at my roommate or something. These are edited pages of me just throwing edited pages on the ground. So there I am, buried in my work. So does anybody have any questions or comments or anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
The microphone.
Oh, right, microphone. Sorry, Catchbox, Ropecon. Woo!
Hi, thank you. The headline of the presentation was something like writing 2 books a year without going insane.
Yeah.
So given all of the sacrifice that you have to do, how do you write 2 books a year and not go insane?
Oh, you don't. That's a joke. You're crazy if you write. You're a crazy person. That's the thing. Is you're going to have to strike a balance. There are going to be distractions. You are going to get tired. But you don't have to spend all day, every day. I'm saying, I have done all of this while holding down jobs, relationships, going out, having a life, coming here to visit you guys. So just writing a little bit every day, just, that one word, or just making sure that you have a day to yourself on the weekend. If you're not, maybe you only write a few times during the week, but Saturday you spend, working on things. Just a little bit. Remember, I am, 1/3 of Stephen King's output at best. You don't have to be him in order to do all this stuff. Just a steady, gentle pressure over years, and you can produce all these ridiculous books. Any other questions? No? We'll pass it up there, and we'll come back to you.
Okay, so you've done a lot of research for Birds and Wheel, I guess.
A little bit.
They've done bibliography. Did you do it prior to the design or during your writing process?
That's good. That's a good question. Both. I will usually, for a game, I look for what we call the text. Like for Burning Wheel, it's the Silmarillion, and Barbara Tuchman's A Distant Mirror. Like those are their two texts for Burning Wheel. And usually those texts will inspire me to write the game. And then for additional material, like I read a bunch of Desmond Stewart stuff and just other historical books, and obviously just having history and fantasy. But I would read them as we went and then refine as we went. But as long as I have that text, like that, the text that I'm really drawing from it as an inspiration, I'm good. I'm good to start the design. Like I usually can't really start a design without one. And if there's a game that you want me to design, it's probably because I haven't done it. I haven't found the text. Like for example, like Apocalyptica. It's very difficult to find the core biblical level text like the Silmarillion for Apocalyptica. So I don't. It's very hard for me to design that space. Like I have a stack of those books, but I don't have one of them that I really like. But yeah, I do both. I start with something and then I keep researching as I go. So pass the box. I don't know, you pick. You go ahead.
Okay, Glenn. Well, first an observation about you're comparing writing between basically Stephen King and what you do, and I just think that writing raw fiction would be something a bit different as compared to writing rule sets and things like that, which is more of a mechanical thing where you go back and forth and tweak. So comparing like word count is maybe a totally one-to-one thing that you can do. But I actually do have a question. In your games, there are common elements in the rules that you use. I mean, from game to game, but also the games are very different. So, how do you feel about the balance between like using or reusing sort of your basic core ideas and doing something totally different? Is there any conflict there, or do you have the urge to do something totally different, unlike anything you've done before, or is there do you like you always using the same core and building on top of that?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm just not that good of a designer to just keep pulling out these unique ideas. I only take on ideas that I think fit into our scope, into our design ethos. If you're seeing like commonalities, that's because I picked those things and said, hey, that will work well in our sphere. Mouse Guard or Burning Empires. But I mean, we have a novel design inside of free market. Free market is completely different. And I have other things that just haven't made it off the design table. But I actually really like iterative design. I really, really like it. I feel like it's a unique opportunity to go back and re-explore these designs and tweak them and modify them. And so that way, when I'm talking to you, we've already built a common language. Say, okay, well, it's similar to this and this and this, but here are the things that are going to be different. So I like that process in design. I
didn't mean this as a critique in any way. It's just an observation that.
No criticism taken, but you're welcome to critique me. That's what I'm here for. Up there, white shirt.
Two questions. First, and they both come from when you're just starting out. Do you think it's better to self-publish or to try to find a collaborator, like say, within the gaming community that's already a publisher to come up with an idea? That's question number one. Number two, when collaborating, let's say, with artists and something like this, when you're starting from zero and you don't have much money, what do you think is the best way to approach an artist or someone that you're going to collaborate with to come in and start creating your work?
Great questions. If you're publishing a tabletop game, there's almost, unless you're publishing like a very heavily miniatures-based game with super high production values, anything less than that, there's absolutely no reason to have a publisher in today's world. Between payment services like PayPal, digital production, PDF, print on demand, digital distribution, RPG Now, and all these things, and the cost of printing really isn't that high either. And with Kickstarter available for funding, there's just zero reason to ever go to a publisher. And let me tell you quite frankly, if there was no publisher between me and Mouse Guard, you guys would all have the second edition by now. Mouse Guard also would not have been out of print for 4 years. That's a publisher will get you reach. Like a publisher will take care of like, oh, you might think I'm an artist, I don't want to deal with things like warehouses and payments and these things. Well, that I think that's terrible. You're giving away your money. You're giving away control of your art. There's no reason for it. You're all smart enough to do both. Especially like publishing books and things like that. The logistics side of it is minimal. It's tiny compared to like actually manufacturing something. So there's no reason to have a publisher. Wait, and the second question was
collaborating with artists.
Oh, collaborating with artists. There are artists out there who also want to get their start and who want to do things and they are hungry. Find them at schools, find them online, DeviantArt, for example, or there used to be this great forum called Ipu. And invest in a single piece of art. Find an artist that you like, negotiate a price, and get one, if it's all you can afford, one good piece of art, especially since the cost of production is so low now to make these things, to make a game. Find, say how much for a cover or how much for like the iconic character or whatever, and that's all you need to get started. And then you can use that in your demos, in your demonstrations, as a poster, all these things. You can use it if you run a Kickstarter. You can show that as the iconic piece of art. Art is incredibly important. We are a very sophisticated audience in gamers. It takes a lot to get us to sit down with with a typewritten manuscript, just a block of text. You can do it, but it's hard. Also, working with artists is great. You get to learn that there's someone crazier than you out there, and someone who has it worse than you. Jordan, who I work with all the time, I adore him. He loves working with me because his other jobs, also you'll find like you might find an artist who does editorial work or who does newspaper work, things like that, whose rates are very, very high. But you might say, I'm doing this crazy cyberpunk sci-fi game. I really love your style. And they might say, oh, yes, I don't want to do medical illustrations anymore. I'll do this for you for really cheap because it's something that they just like as an artist. I find this all the time. Like Jordan's rates for me, I actually talk him up. He says, how about 800? I say, how about 1,000? And because he's so excited to work on the stuff that I give him, he'll cut his rates for me. But really, it just comes down to find an artist you like, get one piece, and build from there. Who's next? Over there? Shoo!
Okay, so just have a question. So you said that write one word at least every day, or 306 words, or what it was. So have you written something during Ropecon or not?
Hell no.
So
You guys are a huge distraction. What's it?
Is it a simple reward?
Yeah, Ropecon is a complex reward. Very complex. Actually, I'm not even certain there's a reward yet. We'll find out on Sunday. I'm not writing while I'm here, but on the train up here, I pitched Topi an idea. On the plane over, I was making notes in here. I had an idea for a game, and one of the things I try to do with a game idea, especially a role-playing game, is distill it down to what do you do in the game? What are activities that the characters do, and how will the players interact with that? And just try to make a list of those things. And that's what I was doing. On the way over here. Then I pitched Topi the general idea for the system, and basically asked him if he could think of a reason that he could just snap it over his knee. So while I'm not writing every day, obviously I don't literally sit down and write 36 words every day. That's my aggregate over a year, or over even 12 years. But I'm definitely working and talking to you all. Like this is the associating part of the process, right? Like getting to answer these questions from you really helps. It helps sharpen my ideas about my designs. It's very beneficial. Any other questions? No?
Hello.
Hello.
Why do you make second editions?
There are mistakes in the earlier editions. The Burning Wheel revised editions, I I was really like searching for my center with the Burning Wheel editions, and I couldn't quite get it until the most recent one, where I feel like that is the game that I always want to take. And it's not even that like I was dreaming of this game in 2001. It's just that as I started to develop this game, and as I saw what the game needed to be itself, I realized that it just wasn't quite done. It wasn't expressing itself clearly. You asked me questions on my forums, you asked me questions at conventions, and I'm thinking, well, why don't you know that answer? Like, why isn't that in the rules? So is there a way I can better clarify that, sort of revise it or refine it? And then, yeah, then there are mistakes. The mouse art second edition is very light, very just some tweaks. Like, there are a few things in mouse art that we call them dangly bits, where they're just like some parts of the system that are kind of hanging off unused, and so I just want to prune them, make the experience better for you all. Or it's a cash grab, and I'm trying to get you all to rebuy the game. Which is the right one? I don't know. You had a question? Toss it.
Well, there has been an argument in the board game community about theme versus mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
How about role-playing games, and what's your point of view?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't know what you guys do. Sometimes when I play Euro games, I'm like, this could be anything. This could be any type of game. And in fact, there's I did a thing called Tabletop Deathmatch with Max Tempting from Cards Against Humanity last summer. It's on the internet. And basically these people were pitching games to us, and this guy pitched basically a Euro resource management game, and he had it started up as a sci-fi game. And I was like, why? I was so mad. I was like, why is this a sci-fi game? This could be a stock market game. This could be a game about hotels. This could be a game about anything. Like, where's the theme in this game? And he was just like, well, I just want to design a game. So theme is very important to me. But in role-playing games, we have this luxury. The role-playing game, the tools of design in role-playing games are so dynamic. It's very easy to address the theme of the game. And I'm not saying like you should ever have a stat in your game called theme or anything related to it. That's not what I'm talking about. But like, if your game is, if it's Craig Stafford's Pendragon, King Arthur Pendragon, you don't need rules for machine guns. You don't need rules for magic. Because those are outside of the theme. Like in role-playing games, we have this great luxury of being able to really focus the games, on what it is that they're after. And I think role-playing games are better with a theme. I think very open-ended systems and very generic systems. Like even Fate has a theme of pulp action adventure. So I'm not saying it has to be emo like Vincent's games, like Mormon cowboy 18-year-old virgins. Whatever, Vincent. You have problems. So it doesn't have it can be that narrow. It doesn't have to be. Burning Wheel is a very expansive system, but it has core themes underlying it. So I love role-playing games for that reason. I've worked in electronic games, and I've worked on board games. I'm publishing a board game right now, and role-playing games will always be my love for that because I can speak so directly to the players and really get you engaged in the game through the theme. What else? Am I missing one? Oh, way up there. All right, multiple tosses. Plot your vector. Oh God! Almost. Well done, sir.
So, 2 questions. First, how did you like the expansion pack for XCOM? And second, if you were commissioned to do a tabletop role-playing game based on XCOM, how would you approach it and what would it be like?
All right, well, sir, I have a question for you. Do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Well, personally, I would prefer the long answer, but I don't know if everyone in the audience is as fanatic about XCOM as the 2 of us.
Long answer.
I'll try to take a medium answer on the expansion pack. Yeah, it was all right. I see why they made choices that they made. So, for those of you who don't know, they made an expansion pack for XCOM that's really weird. They created some new missions, all this other stuff, but they basically just reset the whole game. You start at the beginning, and then you have a few other mission paths and some other tech trees that you build into. You play the whole game, and you play it multiple times, perhaps, at multiple difficulty levels, as some people might do. So it was very strange to me to go and buy the thing, come home and put it in, and be like, what? I'm a scrub again? This isn't part 2? So I thought that was a strange design decision from a creative standpoint. And honestly, I felt like they did it, and the design decisions that they made throughout the game were them recognizing that the limits of their engine, and rather than fixing or adjusting, because it probably was structurally impossible to fix them, they had to add these kind of game designy elements, these little fetch quests and bullshit like that into the game, in order to fix the tactile system so you didn't just turtle or basically you can figure out the loops that the AI went into. They forced you to make these moves. And F you, XCOM, if I want to turtle, I'll turtle. I also felt like the moral center of the game shifted when you pretty much start off as Joseph Mengele in the beginning, chopping people up and attaching shit to them. I was a little horrified. I felt the first game was very humane. All the NPCs are like, this is, I don't know what the fuck we're doing, this is crazy. And in the second game, day 2, you're like, cut her arms off, we'll put some metal arms on her, ha ha ha, she's still human, sure. So I was like, okay, guys. So, but the actual gameplay, I gotta give them credit, the things that they did tweet were very smooth and very nice, I like that. As far as XCOM RPG, oh yeah, I'm your man. Are you involved? Do you know 2K or anything? Because, yeah, let's talk. Yeah, I think you can do it. It could be fun. I think Bernal headquarters could kick out an awesome XCOM RPG. But yeah, I tried to talk to the Mass Effect people too. I was like, look at this, look at what I do. God damn it, you and me. I could never get close. We're trying to work out a partnership with the Darkest Dungeon guys on Kickstarter. They ran a Kickstarter campaign last summer for basically a torchbearer, an electronic torchbearer. Which we backed it, and then we met them at PAX, and so we're going to try to do a little collaboration with those guys. That's the closest I'm getting to any of that. What else? I'm not going to go into the details of my fantasy XCOM RPG. We can talk later. Anything else? Any other questions over there? Is it the young lady right there? Tosit.
So you work on a project for several years every day. How do you avoid burning yourself out?
I don't. I'm very burned out. One thing that I've always promised myself that I'll do is I'll go on vacation after I finish. I'll do this. There's never any time. I never do it. It's okay. You can leave. It's fine. I'd leave too. Honestly, I just love what I do so much that. It sustains me for a long time. But actually, if you look at my chart, this is, I guess, a testament to my obsessive insanity. There's a... So, come on. So, if you look, you can see a gap. There's a gap in there. And so it took me about 10 years to burn out in 2012, where I couldn't produce a book. I had promised myself, one of my goals, starting off, once I did this madness, I said, oh, okay, I'll just do a book a year for the rest of my life. That's sustainable, right? So in 2012, I had to take a break. Ironically, in 2012, what I actually did, I didn't realize this until I put this presentation together. Toby, do you remember what I was doing in 2012? I didn't, because I blanked it out of my memory as I was doing a layout for this game called Tenrobancho Zero, which was a Japanese RPG that had been translated into English. And beautiful game, gorgeous art, But you know what happens when you translate a role-playing game into English? It just balloons. Oh my fucking god! It's this like beautiful 270-page like manga in its original form, and the final form is 2 books. It's 2 like 300-page books because it just like the text was wrong. Anyway, it was a fucking 4-year fucking layout project. 4 fucking years, and the height of it was in 2012. So even though I was burned out and not producing a book, I was still working on insanity. I also
we had dead ends as well. We ran into some dead ends.
some dead ends. Oh, we were also playtesting Portrait that year, right? Yeah.
Previously, some other stuff.
Oh yeah, right. And yeah, we were playtesting other stuff. That's right. That we got shut down. So yeah, you got to find what your limits are. Like one of my friends said to me, and who's a really good friend of mine, and he said, if I do 10% of what you're doing, I'm going to be really happy. And that's totally cool. He has a family and a job, and I don't have any kids, so these are my children. But like one of the things I learned from talking to Ron Edwards and Vincent Baker and Paul Sega, like all the indie RPG guys, is that you kind of like when you're doing this stuff, you make your own peace with it, and you find what it means to you to create a game and to publish. Like you don't like that's the part of what I'm trying to say here is fuck Stephen King, fuck being writing 2,000 words a day. Just this is what I do, but you need to find what you do and make the games or write or whatever in the way that satisfies you at the pace that satisfies you. I think these are just some helpful tips for actually finishing it up when you're in the home stretch. Is that helpful? Any other questions? Is it time for lunch? Going on? Yes. You're right. Okay. Get the hell out of here. Thank you. Thank you all. Wait. Right, that's right. Wait. Can I have my mic back? Yeah. So more talks tomorrow, by the way. I'm giving another talk at probably at some ungodly hour, 11 tomorrow. And I'm running a LARP tonight at 6, Inheritance. So I'd love to see all your shining faces. But anyway, thank you all again. Bye.